All right, welcome back, and I hope you really enjoyed doing that exercise and you had some really good reflections on all the different environments that you face in your life. And you did rate them, the environments that bring out the worst in you, the ones that you don't enjoy, and the ones that bring out the best in you, where you've rated them a five. And those are the kind of environments that are really bringing out the best of who you are. And and your actions, and how does that then have a positive impact on those relationships. I'd like you to, at the end of this session, also do an additional exercise of thinking back of what are those characteristics that are positively impacting other people. What is it about you and all those different facets that are bringing or having positive impacts on those relationships? So I'd like you to do that exercise at the end of this session. But let's take a look at where are our travelers, and they are now going to the information counter. And the reason they're going there is because they need to know what's next in their journey. And the first thing that they're going to have to do as a part of their journey is to really understand where did DC really come from, and how did DC come to life. So let me introduce you to the founder of direct communication psychology, and that is Mr. Arthur Kermazi. And he, was the founder. And let me tell you a little story about how this all started. So he was actually the MD of an organization where he was a really, really successful leader in his department. The business that he was leading really was about building franchises and making them really profitable in the region. And he used to liaise with the manufacturers and make sure that the manufactured products and goods and services were brought out into the retail market. And his role was really about making sure that it's a successful business in the retail market with really good margins. And he did that so well that suddenly he started realizing that his success was huge. And that somewhere started going up to his head, and it started swelling with pride and saying that, oh, if this is what I can do for this company, why not start something of my own? And that's where he really had this spark of an idea to say that maybe let me build a brand of my own and create a company where he could do exactly the same thing and have margins for himself rather than being employed. So he put all his savings, and he also borrowed another $500,000 and started, a company of his own. And as he was, as he walked in and started this company, he already had the sense of pride, and he knew that he was super successful in everything that he did in the previous company. So nothing could go wrong in the strategy that he had. But guess what? Things did start going wrong. And, there were issues, people were blaming each other. And of course, Arthur didn't take any of that blame because remember, he thought he was super successful. And after a few months of, trying to make this work, ta-da, the reality was that the business failed. And it failed really bad, as in huge losses that could not be recovered. And that's really not a fun thing. And I must tell you that this is something that should never be tried at home. So then Arthur realized that, he really needs to bounce back. So a business may not be an option right now. And he decided to take up another job. And he was lucky that he got a really good opportunity with another company as the head of the product development department. And now Arthur, who's faced with all this failure and he was really demotivated, got excited when he got this new opportunity and he really wanted to make this a big success again. But this time being a little more level headed, and even though he walked in knowing that he was super successful when he worked in an organization, he, went in with all that enthusiasm and with that positive energy, and he said he's going to bring in brilliant ideas and he really wants to turn things around. Every day he would think about, how can I add value? How can I have a huge impact on the organization? How can we make, increase our margins and make it more profitable? So he was a leader who walked in with so much of positive energy and wanting to change the world in that company. But guess what happened? He realized that the environment around him wasn't supporting the kind of enthusiasm he had. And he realized that everybody seemed to be blaming each other. And he'd walk to the finance department and he'd hear the finance department blame the marketing department for overspending on the budget, and then the marketing department is blaming the sales department for not meeting their numbers, and the sales department is then you've got the procurement department then blaming finance for not paying the invoices on time, because of which they can't procure material, and production is blaming procurement for not getting the material on time, and everybody is blaming each other. And you also then have all departments blaming HR for not getting the right resources, and for not taking care of their teams, engagement not there, not in the place where it should be, and everything was downward. I mean, you've got a leader here who really wants to make a difference, but the environment didn't support him. And this started getting really frustrating for Arthur, because he really wanted to do different things, and he didn't let that deter his motivation. So he made multiple attempts. He walked to people and he said, what, I've got this really good idea, can we do something about it? It can change how we're operating in this market, and we can get into new markets. And he would come up with all these brilliant ideas, only to hear one response: Arthur, do your thing and let us do our thing. And that somewhere really started having an impact on Arthur's motivation, because after multiple attempts, it was going nowhere. So 4.5 months later, he realized, and he started hearing himself, that he actually started reflecting what others were saying. Because when people walked up to Arthur saying, could you help me with this, or I've got this brilliant idea, Arthur would echo exactly the same thing. You know what? Do your thing and let me do my thing, and we're all going to be happy. And he actually got sucked into that culture. And from being an employee who really wanted to contribute and perform and outshine, Arthur was really an underperformer. I mean, he was just doing what was enough to keep his head above the water. And that didn't bring out the best in him. He realized that it was the environment, that was not supporting him to live up to the potential that he has. In fact, it got the worst out of him. And he was, just barely doing enough, but being busy. So he had to show that he was busy, and he was really being busy doing non-productive stuff, and, being busy for the sake of being busy without having any impact in the organization. And one day, I think Arthur said, that's it. Enough is enough. I really need to do something about this. And he decided to go and talk to all those bad people in the organization. And when he walked up to them and he was trying to understand, what is it that is not getting us? Why are we blaming each other? And guess what he discovered? He discovered that we're all humans and we all want pretty much the same thing. We all want to collaborate. We all want to support each other. We all want the best for ourselves and our teams and for our organization. We all want to meet targets. We all want to achieve targets. We all want to contribute and find ways that we can contribute. Then what is it that is coming in the way? What is it that is not letting us be the best version of ourselves? And he decided to do some bit of research. And after 9 months of research, he had some very interesting observations and findings. And that's where really he took all those learnings and he started applying it, within the teams. And in 3 weeks, in barely 3 weeks, he managed to have a $17,000 savings, just by eliminating wastage. And that became the talk of the town. And, week after week, when they started seeing this, that started making Arthur popular. And people wanted to know, what is it that you're doing? What's the magic? What's the formula that you've discovered to and people were looking happy around him. And this really then got other people curious, and they wanted to speak to Arthur. And if he started getting phone calls, he was invited on radio, he was invited to do TV shows to let out the secret. And that's really where DC was formed. And Arthur then decided to quit the company and start something on his own that would really have an impact, not just on him but on larger teams and in different organizations, so he could go and really make a difference there. And that's where DC was born. And Arthur now is amongst the top 10 thought leaders in the world. And he is a leadership and culture guru. And so it is, and really interesting insight that you're going to get by going through this whole journey. And DC really transforms the environment. You'll see it transforms your life. It transforms relationships. It transforms families. It transforms the way you bring up your children to be better leaders in this world. So it's really a journey of discovery and of self-discovery to start with, and then seeing how you can, how your actions then have an impact on other people, and how we can then cohesively work together as a really cohesive unit. So that's really what DC is all about, and we're going to talk more in the next module. But before we go away, some bit of homework for module 2, and that is going to be, I want you to really think about what are your objectives, and to meet those objectives in your life or at work or in any environment, what skills do you need to make that happen? And once you do that, I want you to think about, if we, let's say, have got our objectives and we've got all our skills, what can happen with that? What kind of results can you achieve? What's the impact that will have on whether, the environment at work, whether it's your family, whether it's your friends, or any relationship that you have, or in general in life? What's the impact it can have on your career? So I really want you to go back and think about that and make a note of that in your workbook. And also the other thing that I'd like you to do, as we spoke at the start of this journey, is to think about what are those characteristics that you subconsciously or naturally display, where those relationships are in a good place, where those where you rated those environments at a 5. So what were those characteristics that brought out the best in you, that let you be you, that let you have a positive impact on others, and resulting in a really good and healthy relationship? So with that, goodbye for now, and I'm going to see you in the next video.